Happy Friday and welcome to today's episode of Friday Tech Bites. And you can tell we have mixed it up. I'm joined by Ken Miller. How you doing today, Ken?
Doing great.
So those of you watching the stream, a couple things are different. First of all, we've got one of our producers, heaven forbid, he took the day off. So we've got Will and Katie, our producers, helping us out today. But we've got Ken, an end user, a customer. He's also based in Ohio, so we had the opportunity to join us here in Studio 2. Ken, give us a brief intro. Tell us about yourself and your business and your role.
Okay. Well, I've been working in IT for about 33 years. I currently work for Heidtman Steel products. We're based out of Toledo, Ohio. We're a very large, privately held steel service center. Our roots go back to the early 1950s. We've got facilities in Ohio, Indiana, Michigan, and Illinois. And I take on a variety of roles in the IT department. So my main role is e-commerce and database administration, but I always fall into the role of the backup guy somehow.
It's fun.
That's where I am.
Yeah, that's a really great point. First of all, Midwest represent. I love it. Right, and there's some views of your business there, those big roles and stuff. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. Actually, long story for another time. I used to work in the metal fabrication industry way back in the day. So so those of you who have seen some of the other Veeam properties, you might recognize Ken. He was most recently on Veeam on Update. We've got the success story and some other things. So it's great to be able to connect here locally. It's close enough. And Ken, thank you so much, by the way, before I forget, for making the drive down to join us here today.
No problem. Happy to be here.
So when we were planning this episode, what we call Voice of the Customer, kind of a different format, what I wanted to do was kind of like, I started with an email to Ken, and I'm like, two different things. What's your favorite capability? Or how do you do a certain topic? And I threw out one that I thought was kind of interesting. I said, how do you do job schedules? And that's the one you took, and that's what we'll talk about today. But why did you kind of say, oh, that sounds interesting?
Well, because that's a big part of what I do. As you'll see as we speak today, we use a variety of Veeam products, and scheduling is pretty important. I have a certain methodology that I follow, and I feel comfortable speaking about it, so I thought we'd talk about that today.
Yeah, and it's got to align to the business needs, right?
Absolutely.
Because if you throw it in, sometimes you might have a different outcome. There you go.
Absolutely.
So let's jump over to the slides here. We did actually prepare something today. So I forgot two important things. Number one, my name's Rick Vanover, right? So you guys see me on here, and I'm going to tell you we got a magic trick planned, and you'll see on the slides here that Corinne is going to join us here in a second when we talk about the Office 365 backup product. So, all right, so let's jump into it. So my first question to you, Ken, is how do you go about job scheduling, right? So this methodology you mentioned, tell me a little bit about it.
Well, I always take on the methodology of segmenting things. So when I schedule backup jobs, I segment the jobs by workload function. So we'll split it into like Active Directory, database, apps, Exchange, things like that. I like to keep everything segmented so I can get to it quickly if I need to, and it just makes it easier for me to process the job in my head.
That makes good sense because usually, it sounds like you're prepared for a lot of scenarios, but it sounds like the most frequent time you have to do something, it's a per application discussion. So that's a very good first segmentation.
Absolutely.
And and we'll see this here in a second. There's a couple different locations that I could see are going on, so that makes a difference as well. So I guess what I'd like to do, first of all, we're going to start at my heart. This particular one was the Active Directory, backup, and those are all VMware virtual machines at this time.
Correct.
What led you to choosing 6:00 p.m. on these days?
Typically, that's when business is winding down for the day. We have a couple locations that are in Central Time, so that kind of corresponds with 5 p.m. in the Central Time zone because everything is scheduled, obviously, in Eastern. That's the first job. Mm-hmm. I chain my jobs together, so I like to have one job complete before we start the next one, depending on the workload.
And I can see that, for those of you who are end users, right? If we look at the last checkbox, we say we have 6:00 selected, but that fourth one down is after this job. So some of the other virtual machine jobs would kick in
This one happens to be the first one. So if you look at any of our other subsequent jobs, you'll see it's after this job.
Yeah, and I think this is a good start. I like to dust it around as well in the lab that Ren and I use and the others on the product strategy team. What I like is having the ability to, spread it out because the repositories will get too busy. I know that we're going to talk about the exegrid as in your example, or a lot of the backups go. Same in our lab. You can only have so many inbounds at a time there, so it's good to kind of space it out. So that's a good one. But one thing that really was interesting to me, Ken, is that when I asked you this question about the scheduling, you're using so many products. Azure, the VMware backup, and multi-site at that, Microsoft 365, and then the backup as a service model. Before we get into the Azure conversation, which Veeam product did you start with, and what was the next, and what was the next, and what was the next?
Okay, so we originally started with the Veeam backup and replication back in, I think, 2013 timeframe. So that would have been probably version 5 or 6 of.
That would have been 6.5 probably
6.5,
in that era.
yeah,
Going into 7 on 2014. Not sitting, just from the resident historian here at Veeam.
I knew you do that. So.
Yeah.
We started with that product. I was talking to Corinne before the broadcast here, and I've been with Heidtman for about 16 years. And during that time, we went from a server room full of physical servers, be backed up to tape, to moving into the virtual world, VMware, trying a couple different products that didn't really work very well for us. And so in 2013, we landed with Veeam, and we've been happy ever since. So that was the first product. Very happy with that. The next product would have been the Veeam Backup as a Service, which we use. We have a cloud provider. We have some workloads in. We have a legacy ERP system that was custom written. So we've got a lot of database. We've got a Citrix farm, and we use them for that. So when we started talking to them about moving workloads to their platform, my first question was, well, how do we back this stuff up? So they said, oh, here's a demo. You use our backup as a service console. And they started showing it to me. And they never said Veeam. They started to go, that's Veeam. I know Veeam. That's Veeam. Like, well, yeah, it is a Veeam console. But and I said, well, yeah. I go, that's cool. I go, sold. I didn't say that to them.
Yeah. Well, it's a confidence builder.
So
sure.
It was very calm. I'm like, okay, I have a good feeling about this going forward. As we'll see, it looks and feels just like Veeam backup replication. So that was the second product. We probably added that about 3 or 4 years later. And then the last two products are fairly recent. The Veeam backup for Microsoft 365 is about 13, 14 months old. And the Azure product is probably 7 or 8 months old, so fairly new to us.
Yeah, and the Azure product, good time. I mean, it just came off the V3. A lot of new capabilities have come in the mix. So, yeah, that's great. Cool. So let's take a look at Azure here. So, now what I've done here for the screenshots, I've blurred out some of the names of the accounts and stuff. But for those of you who are looking at it, if you've not used Veeam Backup for Microsoft Azure, I like, Ken, that you've got these different virtual machines. You've got them listed explicitly, but it could be by name, it could be by tag, it could be everything in the Azure account or the resource pool. So there's a lot of ways to build these jobs. Looks like this particular Azure policy is picking up 17 virtual machines, but also keep in mind, we can back up now by, let's see, Azure SQL, and there's some other services planned as well. Are you using Azure SQL yet up there?
No,
not yet. Okay.
Yet.
When you do, you can back it up with Veeam. But so these 17 are being picked up, and that wizard on the left is very familiar. It's a different user interface.
Right.
And piece of trivia that'll win you guys and ladies a bet at a bar. This product is actually written in Linux. Did you know that, Ken?
Yes. So this is actually on the backup appliance that we got from the Microsoft Store, spun it up in the Azure environment. So that's what we're using.
Yeah, good shout. So you can deploy this right from the marketplace. It is very easy, easy to do.
Very easy to set up. And what I really like about it is it ties in, there's a plugin for backup and replication. So I can see everything in a single pane. So I can see all my backup jobs, my regular backup jobs, my Azure backup jobs, my tape server backup jobs, all in one place. And that's really where we were trying to get with this.
Yeah, and those cloud products, those version 2s, that's when they brought in that central management. So that's really cool. And then when you go through this wizard, we're on the targets, but it's really cool, Ken, to have the ability to do both backups and snapshots.
Yes.
They have different cost profile, but the snapshots are, just a snapshot of an Azure disk in this example, and then the backups are that fully portable copy that we know put in this example on blob storage. And you're doing both, if I understand right. And when we look at the schedule, you can see some details here where the backups, especially on the weekly and the monthly, go on. But and then on snapshots and 24 snapshots on those closer retention points.
Yes.
This is like the advice I've been telling people for all this time. How did you get into this type of config?
I
know it's small from here. Right. Sorry. So
I did a lot of research and looked at best practices and what we thought. And this is the result of a lot of tweaking. At first I was kind of trial and error with it before we got to this config.
Yeah, so reading it out loud, daily snapshots, one snapshot taken to keep 24. No backups on the daily, but on the weekly, get into the restore points created on blob storage at 4 a.m. in Azure storage. So, and then monthly, that longer GFS, and you're keeping 3 months. That's a pretty decent trail, like a moving update zone of the
retention. You had to kind of get a feel for how it would look, and then obviously there's always the cost of storage, because obviously these all go to storage accounts, blob storage, cold tier typically, and there's a cost associated.
Indeed. I did blur it out, but in the wizards, it'll show you the cost estimate. And
yes,
then,
it does.
Yeah, and then all those different blob storage resources, it looks like you've even structured that by the application as well.
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
I create different storage under a single container, but I have different storage blobs for, again, trying to keep things segmented.
I love it. All right, cool. So we're going to do something a little bit special on this segment. I'm going to do what I call it's called a Veeam fire drill, where we do switching on the fly. But tell us why you walked into back in Microsoft 365 first.
Okay. Well, we had an incident where a lot of emails got lost. A lot of older emails got lost. We were talking about it before we were on the air today. And it was an eye-opener for us. So it was a very painful process to get it back. There were some very panicked calls with Microsoft. So we said, we need a better solution. We need a better solution to back this stuff up. This is critical to our business. Our use of Teams at our company has exploded. There are so many teams that have been created out there. A lot of these teams are storing documents and a lot of important things. So we just wanted something a little bit more reliable.
We kind of had a really good conversation before we started here. What'd you say? It took you a month to get everything back and get your end users on the same page when you had a incident.
Yes, we had an incident. And when all is said and done, it took about a month to get everything back to the way it was. Now, some of that was on our users. They weren't paying attention to what they were supposed to be looking at, but some were straggling, but we got it back.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest pain points I try to make an emphasis of. Yes, you might be able to get your data back, but the cost of time and effort to be able to get your data back to the infrastructure the way that you expect it that time and cost not really worth it, is it?
No.
And then here recently, you lost an entire folder you were talking about, right?
Yeah, just yesterday I had to restore a folder for somebody. So
10 minutes of your time done, in, out, ready to go.
Very easy, yes.
So what's been like your favorite feature that you've been working with, or the biggest save that you've had so far with the Microsoft 365 product, would you say?
This would have been some OneDrive documents that a user had. They were fairly important documents to them, and they were misplaced. And so, again, usually it's a panicked call. Hey, oh my God, I lost this stuff. I said, okay, calm down. Let's see what we can do for you here. You want to get it back very, very easily. It's so easy to work with.
Like you said, you wear a lot of hats during the day. Worrying less about your backup. How good does that feel?
That feels real good. Veeam makes me sleep a little bit better at night.
I like that.
Yeah.
Can we have that like as a new tagline? Just Put that out there. It'd be great.
You said all you want.
Yeah, I'm happy to hear that you were able to get that implemented, and I'm sorry it took a bad incident to start with for that to come through.
Sometimes things like that, it takes to get into something like this, and so it's cool.
It's great. So I think we have a next slide here. That's a me. So this is the interface, and if you're familiar with any of the Veeam products, you will understand this doesn't look a whole lot different than what you're used to looking at every day, does it?
No, again, that's what I really liked about it.
Yeah. It's easy.
This is a very simple product.
And the job configurations, do you have any special job configurations? How do you have your objects added into these jobs?
So like for this particular one here, so Front Street is our corporate office where I work out of in Toledo. So what we do is we include by distribution group. So when we add new users, they're automatically added into that Front Street group. So that way we make sure when we onboard new users that they're included in the backup process. So I've segmented my backups in this product typically by location, some by job role. So we have a special one for executives because we do a little bit longer retention on some of those people.
I hope so.
And we have some for like our remote users, things like that. So,
But
then we also have some a joint venture that is on their own Microsoft 365 tenant. So they're actually, we included that in this product as well because we do IT for them as well.
Okay, nice.
So it's very simple to add the extra tenant.
So do you probably do a daily for most of your organization, but do you use like a periodic at all? Like, do you do intervals? What type of SLA do you put on your backups?
I mean, we try to get, we try to do a daily. You know, we were doing a little more frequent at first, but we've kind of settled it on a good schedule. It's an everyday thing right now. We might have to tweak that in the future, depending on our needs. Like I said, this.
And you were talking about having specific windows to not have jobs processing during the day. Have you made good use of the termination?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We want these to all happen, during off hours.
Looks like we're moving to backup as a service. And we'll make that here. And see if we can get another switch off without a incident.
Yes, safety first at Studio 2. So Ken, tell us what led you to the backup as a service model, because that's also, like I like to say, one of the finer points of Veeam, if you go into that model. What was the business need that predicated that?
Well, like I said, we wanted to move some workloads out of our data center. So we did, start looking at a cloud provider. And once we got into discussions with them, we asked about backups and how we're going to back up that data. And that's what we kind of mentioned earlier. Mm-hmm. They started showing us this backup as a service console. They just kept calling it a backup console. And like I said, once the guy brought it up on the demo, I said, "That's Veeam, right?" He's like, "Yeah." I said, "Okay, we're done. We're done."
Yeah. And so, for a lot of people don't understand that Veeam has many ways you can consume our products as a service. So we call it Veeam Powered Services. So there are Veeam cloud and service providers worldwide, and they offer backup as a service, DR as a service, managed backups, Office 365 backup. Maybe Katie, one of the producers, can put this short URL in the chat: VEE.am/SP lookup, service provider lookup, SP lookup. You can find one in your area for your data type and service that can do this for you. So I try to always give the producers the links that we're going to share, but I didn't give Katie that one, so I apologize for that, Katie, if you can. Luckily I can't see the chat the way we're set up here, so if she's yelling at me, I can't see it. But anyways, let's take a look at what this type of portal might look like for you, Ken. So I'm going to jump back over here. Whoops. And this is the self-service backup portal for Heidtman Steel, right? So the service providers customized it, branded it to your name using Veeam Blue. And tell me what this interface is for you.
So, I mean, again, it's the same look and feel as Veeam backup and replication to me. So we have different workloads, different VMs out there. So again, I separate that into workload type and function. Like I said, we run our legacy ERP in this platform, so there are SQL servers involved. There's BI servers involved. There's a whole Citrix farm with numerous servers involved to serve the application. So I split it into that. We also have some storage out there to store SQL data backups with them. So we make sure that that all gets backed up as well through the Veeam product.
Yeah, you know what's really important about having a service provider is if you have an incident with some of your data or data centers, they can provide a target. Like they can lickety quick provide to you infrastructure as a service, as a way to get out of a problem. So that's one of the most undertold story benefits that the service providers give us. So let's walk through a backup job here. So here's a set of application servers, and you know, it does simplify the interface a little bit from Veeam backup and replication, because it says retain 21 restore points, but you don't really know what repository it is.
Right.
That's
abstract. It's out, and we have a storage account with them.
Yeah.
And that's where everything goes to.
Yeah, and when you consume things as a service, these types of details, I think, aren't as important, when in the end, because it's a service that you're consuming. And I'll go one step further, Ken, and I'll say there are some service providers here in the U.S. I know for sure China, a couple other places around the world, they will drop in servers and storage and do this even on premises if you wanted to. So for those of you in the market that don't want to manage any backups and you want an appliance drop shift, we have service providers that can do that. So coolio. So then let's take a look at some of these virtual machines. So in this set, there's 4 different VApps, and I did blur out the business names. I don't want anyone to get any crafty ideas for you, but what's in these VApps just kind of generically? Are they the different business units, locations? How do you use this as a service?
So this is mainly by workload type. So we've got, like I said, we've got our legacy ERP out there. Mm-hmm. And a lot of these on this list are kind of like adjunct processes. So one of these servers monitors machines on the shop floor. Mm-hmm. We have a lot of PLCs that pass data back and forth. We record. When we're running coils, we have to keep track of the gauge or the thickness for the customer. Sure. So some of these have a function with that. They've got some specialized software for that. So they're talking to a SQL server on the back end, but they're out polling these Allen Bradley devices the machines are running. So industrial IoT is going on right here. So true story, Ken. I used to deploy PLCs as well back in the day. Okay. We're going to talk later. I'll see if they still are a headache, but I would imagine they are. Yeah. Yeah. I let our engineers deal with that. Yeah. But it's like, give me the data, give me a data stream.
Yeah. Tell me what I need to protect.
Absolutely.
And for these VApps, you're going at 12:30, and is this kind of work through that sequence of the day? Is that why it's down here? Or?
That's correct. So most of our plants are at least 2 shifts. Some will run 3 shifts, but this just seemed to be a good time to grab these.
Yeah, good stuff. Well, and then the last one is, I love what you did here. The notifications of the job are very good, that we want to do that, notify on success. And the consoles you showed, everything was a success, which was great. But the most important thing that struck me here, Ken, is that you had the email go to you and then Steve, I guess, as a colleague of yours or something, or a staff member. Very important for those out there. Have those critical emails go to more than one person, because if Ken's out for the day, then Steve needs to be aware of those types of things. So it's a best practice, right?
Or you can do a group and distribution list as well. So.
Yeah, fair shout. Actually, I like what you did here. Don't notify on success.
Right, don't tell me everything's good.
That's so interesting.
No news is good news.
So as a service, I'll be down with that. But if it was on premises, I would probably leave it, because I'm going to expose one of my bad lab behaviors, Ken. Sometimes I let my license expire. And if my license expires, then I don't get any email. But if everything's successful, I wouldn't get any email either.
Right.
So for those of you listening out there, maybe think about your administrative aptitude and what works best for you. But I did notice that selection. I thought that was pretty cool.
Right. Well, a lot of my backup jobs, I'll always have that checked. Notify me on success.
Yeah.
That after a while. So.
Yeah, like especially getting started.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. For sure. And with these workloads, if something goes bad, we'll have bigger problems than this.
Yeah.
I'll have users calling me at 12, 1, 2 in the morning saying I can't.
Yeah.
Enter data.
Yeah, the PLC.
The production line or whatever.
Right. Oh, BT, DT, Ken. Been there, done that.
Yep.
All right. So, hey, Ken, before I forget, thank you so much for sharing this story. This is really great, just walking through how Ken schedules jobs in his environments. And by the way, thank you, Ren, for helping me with the M365 perspective. Now, Ken's an end user, and for those of you out there who are also end users, one of the cool things that is going on right now is the Gartner Peer Insights. And with this QR code, you can register, and you do have to be an end user. I know partners are built into Veeam's DNA, like the service provider partner that we just spoke about. But if you're a Veeam end user, go to this QR code and see if you qualify to get a $25 gift card. The Gartner Peer Insights are a great way to get a data point of your perspective of using these Veeam products, Veeam Backup for AWS, Veeam Backup for GCP, Veeam Backup for Azure, as well as Veeam Backup and Replication, as well as the suite, which includes Veeam One, and then Veeam Backup for Microsoft Office 365. I did concatenate the product names a little bit there for this, but you do have to be a customer. Disclaimer, only Gartner approved reviews for this are eligible for the blah, blah, blah. They're paid out by Gartner. Check out this email with any information. But it's a great program. And again, this is probably one of the more structured user feedback bits that are out there. So I encourage everyone to check that out. All right, so we didn't do the map. We had, different change. We're in Studio 2 here today, but I hope this show was good for you. And I want to give a big special thanks to Will, our producer based in Massachusetts, driving the feed and the streams here today. And then a big shout out to Katie on social, managing the pinning and the live transmission. So can't do this without you both. And Ken, thanks again.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, it's been fun, and we're going to try to do more of these. We got to get this Studio 2 a little bit more fitting out, but we're really close. All right, everyone, thanks for watching. Have a great weekend, and next Monday, we're going to see Dave and Jason back with the industry insights, going deeper and farther with the data protection research. Have a great weekend, everyone.